Hi friends, welcome back to your virtual studio. I'm Zuri and I'll be leading you through your practice today. For today's practice, we're going to work our way up towards a couple of variations of the Surya Namaskara or the Sun Salutation. And we're going to work our way there through a couple of joint mobility exercises, also known as CARs. So you might be familiar with some of those already. And we'll use that to just inform ourselves before we get into the Sun Salutation practice. All right, just a couple of variations of those. And that's it. Let's get started. I'm going to start seated and I'm going to use a blanket to just support my pelvis. You're welcome to do something similar if you'd like, or just sit nice and flat on your mat. That might be comfortable too. See if there's anything else to do that helps you arrive to your space, your body, and your practice. Whether that's shaking things out, moving around a little bit before you arrive to stillness. And just see what's there. And then bring your attention a little bit more to your breath. Can you breathe in through the nose and let it feel about as long as your trunk? Keeping that sense of length even as you exhale. Breathing in again the length of your spine and trunk. Breathe in next the width of your trunk as well as the length. And start to observe the expansion to the side bodies, breathing into the left and right side bodies a little bit more. Moving next into a couple of neck articulations. Let's begin by tucking the chin first. When you have the chin tucked, go ahead and let the light back in down there, maybe fluttering the eyes open. You can see the color of your clothing, maybe fingers and toes. And then tuck your chin even more if it's comfortable, almost as if you were trying to kind of squeeze a marble or just something between your chin and collarbone, only if it's comfortable, right? From there, we're going to graze the collarbone, articulating just the neck, arriving to the left shoulder, and then pausing, just to attempt to look behind as much as we can, but we're mindful of not rotating through the rib cage or the trunk, right? So we haven't twisted the trunk, only the cervical spine, only the neck. And since we can't turn the head anymore, we can lift it up though. So let's lift the chin and articulate through the rest of this circle until we arrive at the right shoulder. And then pause again, just looking a little beyond and behind. And we're just pausing for that first moment. Let's move through a couple of circles without pausing. Tucking, graze the collarbone towards the left, lift the chin, dropping the ear, then the head. The gaze circles back. Maybe 2 or 3 in each direction. Let it feel nice and slow so that it's almost like a self-massage. Again, the spine doesn't move, just the neck. Reverse the direction if you haven't already. And try to find the subtle stretches in different areas through the lines of the neck. Let's start to finish out our cycles, perhaps meeting with the chin tucked, and then restacking the head back over the shoulder girdles, moving to the shoulder blades. Let's squeeze the shoulder blades up towards the ears, squeeze them together, and then back down, forward, up, back, down, some scapular cars, if you will, so just some scapular rhythm. Switch the direction, so forward and down, back, up, forward, down, back, up. Take your time with it. And then let it go. See if there's any other final shrugs, any other little release. Moving next through a couple of cycles of cat and cow. In this seat, tuck the tail, round the spine, tuck the chin. The hands can stay around the knees, but see if the pelvis can find a shift. So we tilt the pelvis forward. Pubic bone starts to point down. The sternum starts to lead its way forward. The gaze can come up. The tail tucks first. So invite the movement from the pelvis first and try to find the segments of your spine. So we shift the pelvis. There's the lower back moving, and the mid back, then the upper back. Lower back, mid back, upper back. See if you find one more cycle. And then come back to just a neutral spine here. But oftentimes when we say neutral, what we actually mean is axial extension. And so axial extension just means that we're trying to lengthen the spine and, in a sense, very slightly reduce the natural curves of the spine. So thinking of Tadasana, that is something that we do in mountain pose, is axial extension. So allow that, invite that sense of lengthening through the trunk, and then let the left arm come up by the ear here. So now, without letting the spine or the trunk move anymore, reach and maybe squeeze the shoulder blade up towards the ear. Can that arm lift a little bit more? Then bring that same arm away from the ear, internally rotate. We're going to do a shoulder cars series here, bringing the arm behind you, then back up, out through an external rotation. Try to keep the ribs nice and still, the trunk nice and still. Bring the arm in front of you, pointing towards the space towards the right side of the room without twisting your trunk, right? This is adduction. Then start again from there. Let's do one more circle. Nice and easy here. Come back to that starting point. Only your arm is reaching towards that right corner, but not your ribs. Your ribs and sternum are still pointing forward, all right? Let's just bring the arm right back up towards the ear, finding a lateral bend. The right arm can stay where it is, over the thigh, and just let the left arm guide you into that lateral bend. The right arm can also move to support you somewhere off to the side. Good. Start to come back to center, and then just soften that left arm back down. Take a full breath in. Let it go. The right arm starts to move forward and up. Let's find that sense of neutral spine, yet adding that sense of axial extension, reaching up so that the shoulder blade of the right side elevates up towards the ear, really getting the most out of this shoulder position called shoulder flexion as we reach overhead. Then move your arm away from the ear, internally rotate to reach behind you. Find the end point, maybe that's just where the mat is, and then move again, reversing the motion, and then bringing the arm again to cross in front of you, only to the degree that is comfortable, resisting the urge to twist the trunk. Find that internal rotation when our arm reaches behind us. This is actually shoulder extension. Reaching the arm behind, shoulder extension, reaching the arm up, shoulder flexion. Good, nice and easy. Reach the arm back up over by the ear, looking for a lateral bend, reaching up towards the left. Let the right hip still feel a little heavy, even as you surrender towards the left. The left fingertips can stay over the leg, or they can support you, maybe fingertips onto the mat, or beyond the mat, perhaps. Take another breath. And then start to bring yourself back to center. The right arm can soften, can melt. A full breath. Let it go. Start to then lengthen the legs a little bit here. First, we're going to keep just a little distance, a little bit, not a full wide leg variation, but just a little bit of space so that the thighs can roll out and the ankles can roll out here. We're not particularly doing ankle cars, but we are just letting everything roll out. So it's okay if the thighs move right now with the ankle. And then let's look for the difference, right? So now pause, sit up a little taller. I'm gonna move my sits bones now to the edge of this support that I have. So feel free to do something similar if you are seated on a blanket. And now see what it's like to widen the legs a little bit more. Flex the feet a little bit more now. Sit up taller and invite the energy of your legs to hug downward while your toes are flexed and pointing upwards. Now the internal rotation of your thighs is gonna make your big toes point inward a little bit. The external rotation of our thighs lets our pinky toes roll down towards the floor. Now we're not trying to touch the floor with our toes. This isn't even about the feet right now. This is about our inner thighs rotating. And our feet are flexed, they're just attached and coming along for the ride, right? You're noticing your kneecaps perhaps are also moving in space, rotating in, rotating out. It's okay if they have a little micro bend, they don't have to be super straight. Good, but now let's take a little pause, back to center here where the kneecaps will stay just, pointing up towards the ceiling, probably that neutral position. So now your ankles, as they articulate next, the kneecaps aren't going to move anymore, your thigh bones aren't going to rotate anymore. Now we're moving into our ankle cars, controlled articulated rotations. Going in the opposite direction here. I like to keep my hands, my fingers just around the kneecap here for a little bit of feedback that my thigh bones aren't rolling around anymore. We did that before and that's great. That also feels yummy, but sometimes we need a little extra isolation. Good. Let that go here. Now let it all shake out. Then bring your hands behind you. Here we'll start to just kind of greet the hands, maybe making a couple of handprints back here. Just kind of warming up the wrists a little bit. And then finding a moment here to let the arms actually support the trunk a little bit. Your fingertips can start to point maybe out towards the sides of the mat. And then we're going to bring our feet a little closer to us, but still wider than the mat. The feet are nice and flat onto the ground, knees are bent. Let's drop both knees towards the right side, like little windshield wipers, then rotate over towards the left. And let's do that a couple of times, rotating towards the right. The pelvis is coming with you, so notice when we roll to the right, left side of the pelvis is coming up. When we roll to the left, right hip, right sit bone comes up. Hands can stay on the floor or you can allow them to shift towards the pelvis so that you can feel that controlled motion and pivot of the trunk. Now we're going to isolate the movement and let the trunk no longer be a part of it. This time it's just going to be the thighs. So let's flex the feet here so that only your left or your right thigh, let's do the right thigh first, internally rotate the right thigh. We're no longer doing that windshield wiper effect. The pelvis is now staying kind of locked where it is. And then we're going to externally rotate that same leg. Try to keep that left leg nice and still and see how much this leg can move into an invisible force, active external rotation, and then a little active internal rotation. So just kind of warming up the hip joint here, a little active rotation. Good. After you do a couple of those, notice your left leg is active. Let's now keep the right leg nice and still. You can let both legs relax for a moment and then bring it back in, re-engage. Left leg starts the action, internal rotation. Keep the foot active, right? Hug the muscles of the leg. You're welcome to keep your hands back here. If you're looking to find something a little bit more engaging for the hips, maybe this is feeling a little bit too easy perhaps, you can bring your arms in front of you, invite the trunk to stay nice and still, and then go through those internal and external rotations of just the left leg or one leg at a time, without letting the trunk move, right? So I'm going to invite you to do that maybe one more time through each leg. Just one in, one out to finish out. Good. Now, once you've done that, let's go back to letting the whole pelvis and trunk rotate. Maybe we go all the way back towards the left. If your arms are up, they can stay up, or your hands can stay behind you, just like we did earlier. And then we go back again to the same thing we did before. We're just adding a little bit more dynamic energy if you have the hands off the floor. So this is an invitation, not an obligation. Really warming up through the hips here. Good. Now let's come back to center. I am absolutely slipping out of my blanket. Let's meet back in a wide-legged seat. Maybe walking the fingertips forward any amount. The feet can relax for a moment if they'd like, or you can make this a little bit more of a dynamic stretch. So maybe if the feet are pointed, the legs can just still have this sense of hugging downward as the spine naturally lengthens forward. Good. Maybe 2 more breaths here. There's no rush. There could be stillness, or you might be like me, someone who likes to always move and flow and sway and just always looking for different stretches. Let's move towards tabletop position next. Feel free to cross through the feet. Work your way into a tabletop where your knees are comfortable. And let's make a couple of handprints once we arrive there. You might have noticed my wonderful little puppy Minnie off on the corner there. Let's come back to our tabletop position, finding just a little segmentation of our cat and cow, starting by lifting the tailbone here, letting the crown lift last. Keep the crown where it is as the tail tucks next. And see about doing one more cycle here before you come back to your neutral spine. Good. From this neutral spine, let the right leg make its way back. Ball of the foot hugs the ground. Heel starts to reach forward and back. We're going to make some ankle smushes here. We're going to drop the heel in, forward, out. Keep doing those ankle smushes. Nice and easy here. Yeah, I know. It's not the time right now, Minnie. Keep doing those ankles. She's like, no, I don't care. All right, fine. I'm going to move the thing. Girl, please. All right, let's do the other side. Left leg, left heel. These are the things that happen in real life, all right? So we practice whether or not our pets are around or family kind of doing their thing. Hashtag real life. Good. She's just going to continue there. Good. Let's come back now and greet a lunge by letting that right leg step forward. and just climbing up, shoulder girdle over the pelvis here. So we're going to activate the legs right away so that the right leg wants to slide back, the left leg wants to slide forward. But even further, we're going to try to drag that right foot even more. See if that action of dragging your right foot back helps your pelvis shift slightly forward in space so that the rest of your trunk can move into a comfortable extension, or what we call a slight upward back bend for crescent lunge. Keep the legs active. Squeeze the legs as if they were moving towards one another. One more breath. And then slowly, see if you kind of fold over, bringing the hand perhaps back to the inside of the right foot. Heel toe that right foot back behind you and cross it behind the left foot just for a little beat. Bring it back underneath the hip. Good. The left leg is going to step forward, low lunge. Right away, we activate the sense of tucking the tail, sliding the right leg forward. Left leg grips the floor and wants to slide back. Keep sliding your left heel and pull your pelvis forward, right? Nice and easy. Keep that energy. What brought you there stays, right? We don't just relax our muscles, keep them active. See if from there we can then let the upper spine do the rest, letting the arms lift, crescent lunge. The pelvis is already in its back bend. The trunk or the upper trunk is the last thing to find the shape. Take another breath. Legs are still engaged. Good. Slowly start to hinge forward. Heel toe that left foot out of the way. Hands back towards the floor. Sweep that left leg now over the right foot and a little beyond. Take a little pause. Tabletop position, tuck the toes, coming towards a kneeling variation here, a little toe stretch. You can skip the toe stretch as well and just untuck the toes, but come back to a full breath. Let it go. On the next breath here, let's all pick up the pelvis away from the heels. Untuck the toes if you had them tucked here. And then think of sitting right back down because we're hinging at the pelvis. Let the hands now move forward. And let's do that one more time. Just floating the pelvis up to a tall kneeling position and hinging. Let the hands stay floating as your pelvis finds the heels again. Let's do that 2 more times. Try to really hug through the legs. Maybe point the tailbone down as you arrive. Feel a squeeze in the engagement of the muscles of the legs and glutes. Your glutes are part of your leg muscles. Good. Let's pause in the next kneeling position and bring your hands to your hips. So in this tall kneeling variation, I should say, we're going to stay with the pelvis now locked in this position. Can you feel your glutes engage even more? Just to stay and maybe start to lean back a little bit. What's it like to keep the hands maybe towards the front of the pelvis, or maybe one hand towards the lower belly, other hand by the chest, so that you can think of keeping the chest away from the lower belly as you lean back again. Bringing a sense of plank with you, if you will, even though this power perhaps is being harnessed a little bit more at your thighs or your quads. Let's see if we do one more. Hands can also change position. Good. Slowly here. Let it all go. Come back to a low kneeling position. I'm tucking my toes again for an extra stretch. Take another breath. Let the arms lift up. Move your hands while they're over the head. Your fingers, your wrists can articulate up there. Getting ready for downward facing dog. Let the hands float down. Plant them somewhere towards the front of the mat so that as you tuck your toes here, we can start to elevate the knees, let the pelvis travel away. And continue here, maybe pedaling the knees, For some of us, coming to complete stillness in downward dog might feel perfectly appropriate. So choose one. Maybe there's movement, maybe there's stillness. What we do want to kind of keep engaged in this downward dog is the sense of overhead lift. Our shoulders are up by the ears, so are our shoulder blades. We are literally lifting the ground away. So see if you find that effort of pushing the earth away from you. Let the pelvis rise in the opposite direction. And then slowly start to walk forward towards the top of the mat, finding a forward fold. Lift and lengthen halfway, finding that sense of neutral spine and also that axial extension. Where can we find it here? Shoulders now are away from the ears since the hands and the arm bones are also away from the ears here. One more breath. Seal into the corners of your feet here. Start to then release your bow again. Lift and lengthen halfway up. Find your axial extension here again in this half forward fold or Ardha Uttanasana. Release your bow. Good. One more time, half forward fold. Let's pause. In this half forward fold, start to take one hand away to a half T shape. Or maybe we call this the middle of a swan dive. On the next breath, the slowest reverse swan dive from that point. The feet hug the floor, the tailbone points down, the hands might connect over the head, and then reconnect back at heart center. A full breath in, a full breath out as the hands find the sides of the body, connecting them back to your pelvis or the hips again. To find our pelvic tilt here, tuck your tailbone and then lift your tailbone. It's a very subtle movement. Lift the tail, tuck the tail. One more time, and then keep the tail tucked for a moment. Just kind of squeeze, hug into that energy for a moment. Mountain pose or Tadasana. One more breath. Squeeze into the legs now. And now the next time that you do lift your tail, bring your trunk with you. Start to find a half forward fold. Let your hands travel down the knees, maybe down towards the shin bones, anywhere there. Find that axial extension again. Release your bow. Good. Slowly here, come back to that half forward fold. Both arms sweep out. Slowly reverse the hinge, bringing the arms up, squeeze into the floor, through the feet, through your heels. Hands come back to center. Full breath and let it go. The next breath, the arms come up. Fold over the legs, hinging at the pelvis here. Lift and lengthen halfway. This time here, let's place the hands back onto the mat, onto the floor. Step back, downward facing dog. Come forward towards what feels like a plank pose, just for a little beat, and start to bring the knees down, tabletop position. The right leg is going to lift and circle forward towards a low lunge once more. Let's climb our way up, bringing the arms up, right away engaging that sense of right foot back, left leg forward, finding your crescent lunge once more. Maybe there's more lift through the arms. See what's different this time around. Good. Slowly bringing the hands back down. Heel toe the foot back behind you, lifting towards downward facing dog. Forward through plank pose. Bring the knees down, bring the gaze forward. Start to then bend the elbows and just bring the sternum towards the mat. You're still keeping your gaze forward. You've just arrived at a baby cobra. Squeeze your shoulder blades, lift your hands. Send your arms behind you. Maybe they lift a little higher. See if you re-bend the elbows, pressing into the mat for a low cobra that can hug you back towards an extended child's pose. Use the grip of your hands to pull you back towards downward facing dog. Good. Forward towards plank pose, knees down, tabletop position. Left foot comes forward, low lunge. Right away, swimming the arms up, activate the legs. Left foot back, right knee wants to hug forward. Find your crescent lunge here. Let the energy continue to seep out through the fingertips, through the arms, just as much as the legs are engaged. Slowly here, deliver the hands down. Heel to the left leg out of the way. Downward facing dog. Forward through plank pose. Let's make our way towards a short plank. Knees down, bend the elbows, sternum towards the mat. Gaze forward, squeeze your shoulder blades, lift your hands. Reach your arms behind you. Let's find a little extra space for the shoulders. Re-bend the elbows. Press your hands back up. Downward facing dog. Walking forward, top of the mat, forward fold. Lift and lengthen halfway. Release your bow. Reverse swan dive, coming back up. Hands to center. Hands down by your side. Take a breath as the arms sweep up, folding over the legs. Lift as you reset your spine. Stepping back, downward facing dog. From here, you can move through tabletop and then into a low lunge with our left foot, or the left foot can lift right here and then step it forward into that low lunge. So you can do what we did the first time around or come in through a three-leg down dog. Try to find that crescent lunge one more time. Energy through the legs, energy through the arms. Good. From here, let's make this into a little twist. Bring the right hand down, left arm up. Tucking the back toes, and maybe the right knee comes off the floor. Invitation, not an obligation. Good. If you brought the back knee up, it can come back down or stay as you make your way back, downward facing dog. Let's find our dynamic vinyasa here, coming through a plank pose, bringing the knees down or keeping the knees up and then pulling the floor up towards your chest. Sternum stays, hands lift. Arms move behind you. Let's add to this one here. Move your arms in front. Half locust variation. Fingers reaching with energy. Tailbone points down towards the mat. Pubic bone is pointing up into the mat. Good. Move your hands back behind you. Rebend your elbows. Press your way up and back. Downward facing dog. Left leg or right leg this time comes up and back, three-leg down dog. You're welcome to skip it and move through your tabletop to come into your low lunge, left foot or right foot forward. Re-engage the energy through the legs. Find your crescent lunge once more. Use the energy of pushing into the right foot to help you arrive into your revolved low lunge. Left hand down, right arm up. Left knee can stay or left knee can come off the ground. Revolved lunge, take another breath. Slowly here, Downward facing dog. Let's take our final flow through our dynamic vinyasa. Coming through your plank, could be knees up or knees down. Pull yourself down to the floor here. Last time, lifting the hands. Send them behind you. Good. Lift them up. Reset underneath. Press your way back to your last downward facing dog. Or skip it if you'd like, and you can stay low to the ground anywhere you'd like to. Take one more breath wherever you are. Let's slowly meet in a kneeling position. Pelvis can sit over the heels. If you prefer to keep the head low in a child's pose variation, you're welcome to do that. Just take a moment to observe the natural rhythm of your heart and breath dancing together. Noticing the energy that you've manifested through that sequence. And just be with your energy now. Let's take a moment next to bring the feet out from underneath us to simply shift towards the final shape of this practice. You're welcome to otherwise stay as you are in a comfortable seat if you'd like. Or if you come onto your back, maybe there's some final movement down here, maybe a little squeeze of the knees or a little happy baby pose. And see what it's like to simply surrender to your breath. Letting the body just soften and experience what it's like to no longer produce force, no longer create intentional energy. Now we digest the wonderful energy we created and manifested throughout this practice. Let's invite a deeper breath in. Gently initiate some movement through the body. Maybe it's through fingers and toes or any other organic response. Gently making our way up to a final upright seat so that we may seal our practice together. Let your hands rest comfortably somewhere over your lap. And just be with your breath one more time. So let's seal our practice together. The hands can stay as they are, or they can meet together at heart center in Anjali Mudra. A breath in through the nose, and a full breath out. A breath in through the nose, and a full breath out. A final breath. And as you exhale, bowing to your space and practice, recognizing the power within your breath and yourself most of all as your own best teacher. Thank you for practicing with me. Hope you have a good day.